And good evening to our fellow listeners and followers. Today is June 30th at 8:27 p.m. This is Federico Lines of States Rights Radio and
Seth Hancock of Seth Hancock Reports. And tonight's episode, the unconstitutional Espionage Act on non-U.S. citizens while we target our own citizens, and the first theater presidential debate sideshow. So we can probably all guess what we're talking about tonight. We had what I think is a surprising story to many people who have supported Julian Assange. Nobody thought he was ever going to walk free, and apparently he is free now, at least free from jail, after a plea deal with the United States government. And then we're going to talk about the I guess we can call it a presidential debate. I don't know what it was, but we'll start with Assange. I personally, I've been on the side of Julian Assange in the sense that I think he's committed no crimes, nor the fact that he's not a U.S. citizen, so he's not actually obligated to follow U.S. law. But he basically, the best way to describe it is that he was being prosecuted for practicing journalism. He got documents that exposed criminal actions by the U.S. government and actually other governments. It wasn't just U.S., but and he obtained them legally. The people who gave it to him might not have obtained them legally, but he basically was acting as a publisher, and he embarrassed the regime, and they've been targeting him. It's much like Edward Snowden, who is a U.S. citizen, who is remaining in outside of American borders for his act of being a whistleblower. So, I mean, I think this case just exposes the lengths that our government will go to try and hide its criminality. That the government is allowed to commit criminal acts, and if you expose it, you're the criminal. And that's the sorry state that we're in.
yeah, and I mean, on a note, I have no feelings for Julian Assange. I know that he used the private I forgot his name, that he had a sex change and became a Maryland Senate candidate in 2016 or 2016 it was. I forgot or 2020.
Bradley Manning.
Bradley,
Chelsea
that's
Manning.
right, yeah. Chelsea Manning, that's right. That was after he made the operation. My main concern is that many Republican legislators and even Democrat legislators, with the exception of she already passed away, Dianne Feinstein, that she probably would not have wanted this plea deal because she was very deep with the NSA, as she was the intelligence chair committee person in the Senate. But, how come we're cozying up to non-U.S. citizens and not protecting our citizens like Ed Snowden, or even before, Eugene Debs, that he was convicted of the Espionage Act, the same thing as Ed Snowden is charged using the Espionage Act. The Espionage Act is a very unconstitutional form of surveillance, and they claim that it's a threat to national security. What is national security? What is national defense? That's just, they did that on 9/11, after 9/11, to create this illusion of national defense and national security, to protect the homeland. And, I really, and yet, the government can target us with surveilling our phones, our emails, and our bank accounts. The Supreme Court has allowed that. But yet, they cozy up to non-U.S. citizens. Like I saw Marjorie Greene all happy about this plea deal, but she hasn't, shed a tear for Ed Snowden. I want Ed Snowden to come back to his homeland and live his life somewhere in North Carolina or wherever, where he's from, and just enjoy a good life. Now, right now, he's in Russia on asylum, and I feel bad for the guy. Because all he did was, he noted that the government is doing something bad about collecting this type of data, and he has every right to have his grievances heard. And, my just main concern is that we're cozying up to non-U.S. citizens, and we're treating U.S. citizens like garbage. And Republicans are just two-faced when they're seeing that. They really don't care. And Democrats, I don't think one way or the other they see anything for it. But Republicans, I'm very upset about it. And they've never, Republicans nowadays, they're not for our protection or our rights or liberties. They just, want to see how they can do and help their campaign and all that. So, with this thing with Julian Assange, I think we should protect our own citizens and not non-U.S. citizens, and we should, not cozy up to this guy.
Well, I look at the amount of time and energy that the government has wasted targeting both Assange and Ed Snowden. It's just the biggest issue is what happens is these guys expose criminality by our government, and suddenly they become the criminals. And I think there's a big problem here that nobody's talking about what exactly did these guys expose. Julian Assange exposed war crimes by our military, but by our political class that put us in these unconstitutional and immoral wars. Ed Snowden exposed how the government was spying on all of us and setting up this massive spy apparatus. And we don't talk about that. That's it's almost like the individuals, like the presidential debate, they become the distraction from actually what we should be focusing on. Julian Assange, one of the big thing that he exposed was what was called the collateral murder tape, which showed a U.S. Apache helicopter firing on and killing journalists in Iraq and Afghanistan. And they knew who they were targeting, and then the U.S. government comes out and lies about it and says we just killed these insurgents, and then these tapes come out proving that that the U.S. military was actually targeting journalists, that's a little bit more something that we should be talking about more than whether or not Julian Assange had the right to expose this. We have no transparency in this government anymore. And, those of us who want to expose the truth, try and find the truth, we become the criminals. And that's, that we've been here for a while. This is obviously, just a couple decades ago, when all this stuff was kind of, starting to come out, when these guys were doing what they were doing, when Assange and Snowden were doing what they were doing, there was nobody on their side. And even today, there's still not a whole lot of people on their side. The Democrat and Republican parties as a whole are they love the deep state, as much as Republicans act as if they hate the deep. They work for it just as much as anybody else. But I just think that we need to kind of look at what these people exposed more than the sideshow distraction of the kabuki theater prosecutions that they're attempting on these guys.
Well, you are right. The government's treating us like the criminals, and they are like the victims here, and that's what they do when actually I think the government is like a big narcissist, and gaslighting the citizens, saying, "Oh, well, you did something wrong, and we didn't do anything." It looks like the government is a big narcissist and gaslighting us. With all this stuff and putting the blame on Assange and Snowden, and the thing is that the American people have a very short attention span, and they'll forget about this, and it's very sad. It's my favorite quote from the movie Canadian Bacon. It's a Michael Moore movie. It's one of my favorites. Michael Moore movie. I think it's because it's got John Candy, may rest in peace, and Alan Alda. I think that's great. But there's a scene where the big shot billionaire is talking to the National Security Advisor and says, "The Americans' attention public span is about as long as your dick," and that's so true because the American people don't really care about this issue, and they don't care about their history. Now, if you go back to the history of prior to before 9/11, before the first and second World War, the Spanish-American War, going back to really 1798, where we had the first intrusion of the federal government with the Alien and Sedition Act. This is something that the federal government has set a precedent into this, that they think they can do whatever they want, whenever they want. I'm sure that they would even violate the Third Amendment, which I think, Seth, in one of our podcasts, you even said that this intrusion of cell phone usage and cell phone deep by the federal government, it could be a violation of the Third Amendment, and they would do it. And they would actually bring in troops into a family home just like that, because they would like to violate your rights. And people don't know that. People are afraid of that. I don't know if they're let me retry. I don't know if they're afraid of it, but people just don't know the basic history of this country, how the federal government has really portrayed, how they've been a big narcissist and gaslighting us. It's very sad. And then, you have people like Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson that are all for national security, but yet they don't really defend our rights. They're not media pundits that are out there protecting our rights and liberties. And they're just supporting anybody just for the hell of it. And, it's very, it's very distraught that, we have this. And, if people would know more about our history and the way the federal government has become, then we'd probably be living in a different country. But, we've let the federal government become this powerful entity that, it's sadly become too much, too big. But the only one we have to blame is ourselves for electing these political parties and these leaders that don't do anything. And then when it's too late, then they're crying murder. They're complaining. Well, you let these guys in, you let them in, you voted for them, and now you don't like this. I mean, you're the ones to blame here. So I just think that we really need to think on who we are supporting. Are we supporting the big shot politician or American citizens like Ed Snowden? That he's actually protecting our rights and liberties. Who do we really want to support? Big time politicians or people like Ed Snowden?
Yeah, and speaking of gaslighting, Julian Assange and Edward Snowden also expose Donald Trump for who he really is. There are a lot of people who who really thought Donald Trump was going to pardon them both. And, I think if people looked at Donald Trump's pardon history, they'd get a sense of who he really is. Donald Trump was in the 2016 campaign. He was out on the campaign trail talking about how much he loves WikiLeaks and how much he loves Julian Assange and Edward Snowden and everything. But then as candidate or as president, he being interviewed, he's asked about if he still loves WikiLeaks, still loves Julian Assange, and Donald Trump is like, WikiLeaks? I've never heard of WikiLeaks. It's really, it just exposes what a filthy liar he is. And then the fact that Mike Pompeo, Trump's CIA director, it's been coming out in court documents that Mike Pompeo was trying to plot an assassination on Julian Assange. The political actors are just that. They're actors. They're gaslighting us, getting us to think, they're going after the deep state and everything when they're working for it. To note on, the pardons, the fact that Trump didn't pardon Assange, didn't pardon Snowden, but he pardoned his friends, he pardoned his family, he pardoned a bunch of rappers for some reason, pardoned a bunch of drug dealers, he even sold pardons. There was a John Kiriakou, who was a CIA whistleblower from the early, I think it was 2012. He was convicted of disclosing information, he was seeking a pardon from Trump, and apparently Rudy Giuliani told him $2 million to get a pardon. The Julian Assange, these Assange, Snowden, all these whistleblowers and publishers who are being targeted by the U.S. expose the criminality of our government. They also expose our political hacks, like Donald Trump, who has no principles. His principle is me, 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 me.
Well, I mean, not only, his pardons were a list of nepotism and full of nepotism. I mean, he pardoned Michael Flynn, he pardoned Roger Stone, he pardoned Dennis D'Souza. It's just like Bill Clinton pardoning Mark Rich, and I think there was more nepotism under Donald Trump than Bill Clinton. I mean, I'm not defending Bill Clinton, and I'm not defending Donald Trump, but yes, I know pardons are constitutional and all that, but there's a lot of scrutiny involved when you're pardoning somebody. Like, for example, the Ford pardon with Nixon, that was kind of shady. I mean, I think Gerald Ford should never have pardoned Richard Nixon, and I think he should have had Richard Nixon stand trial for the crimes that he committed. The same thing with Mark Rich and Roger Stone and all that. But yet again, we get to this tribalism theater play that the Democrats support pardon Mark Rich, and then the Republicans support pardon Roger Stone, and you get this crapola of tribalism and bullcrap that they're forgetting the integrity of the Constitution, the integrity of what it means to hold office. So, yeah, and Donald Trump is the biggest narcissist, and he's gaslighting. He really is. I mean, I don't think Biden can. I don't know if Biden will be a narcissist. He's just an old man. But Trump really is a narcissist who's really gaslighting the American people into believing his crap. So, and that's, when it comes to our second segment, is this sideshow of a first presidential debate that, I saw the highlights of it. I started watching it and I just went to bed right after that. And I thought, oh my God, this is, completely useless in every sense of the word. Yes, Biden is 81 years old. Trump is 78. They're both old men. I know we have a two political party system, but this is the best that they can offer us to constitute the federal government. This is the best. This is moronic. This is submoronic. So, I just couldn't bear watching either of them. And then, of course, I told you later in the night, I go, they're talking about golf, Seth. Golf. Here the country's in a recession since 2001, and they're chatting about their golf game. Give me a break. It's two rich white guys. So I don't know how middle America can relate to two rich white guys talking about their golf game. So, it's a sideshow of a sideshow, and quite frankly, I'm not paying any attention. I'm not gonna waste my vote, or not even voting for a presidential election in this election, because I'm not gonna give them 1 inch of my support or my vote to these two old fogies. How about you guys? How about you, Seth?
It just confirms my my desire not to vote. I'll state up top that I did not watch the debate in any substantial length of time, simply because I couldn't. I physically couldn't watch it. I turned it on a couple times and had to turn it within a minute. The first time I tuned in was early on in the debate, and you had Biden just completely incoherent, talking about something with COVID and then ending with, I defeated Medicare. And which, if that were true, he defeated Medicare, I'd be happy. Okay, we got rid of that unconstitutional program. But of course, that's not what he was talking about. He's just completely mumbling and incoherent. And then I tuned in later, and Trump was on there just bragging, doing what Trump does, bragging about how he created the greatest economy ever, which, if you live in that fairy tale land, get out, because it was not the greatest economy ever. We have a rigged economy, and it has been for a while. I saw a piece by Reason Magazine, which is a libertarian magazine, and effectively the point of it was prior to the debate. They said if the debate is a complete disaster, that could be the greatest thing for America, because it exposes how little it should expose to people how little faith they should have in our presidential elections. Now, I don't know that this will work out that way, but if we can make that case that, look, we got to stop putting our hope in these guys. I think we never should have hope in presidential candidates, even if we're in normal times and we had normal candidates. You don't put your hope and faith in presidential candidates. We need to change as people. We need to make the changes in our lives and control our own destiny instead of looking towards these presidential candidates. And I don't know that this debate will prove that to people, because I think the focus after the debate was just how senile Biden is. Trump didn't have to do anything. Again, I didn't watch the whole debate, so I can't say too much about that. I think the talking points are all about how Biden is incapable of doing the job, and that obviously benefits Trump. But I don't care which one of these guys is reselected. That doesn't matter. What matters is if the American people start saying no to tyranny, whoever it is who's installing this tyranny. It was, from what I saw, it was awful. It was what I expected. No real discussion of policies, of real substantive issues. And from what I'm hearing after, for people who watched the whole thing, Biden exposed himself to be senile, and Trump exposed himself to be the arrogant narcissist that he is.
Well, yeah, and I also, didn't. I just saw like 5 minutes. Well, I don't, maybe less than 5 minutes, and all I heard was me. I did this, I did that, I beat Medicare, and it's become, I would say, since even the 1960 debate, Kennedy versus Nixon, which again, people said that Kennedy won the TV debate and Nixon won the radio debate. But back then it was about the issue. It wasn't that much about personalities and charisma. And, now it's all about me. It's all, what I did and what I'm going to do. And, we're giving too much, as Seth put it, attention to presidential campaigns and presidential candidates. Presidents don't have that power. The executive branch doesn't have that power. If you read the Constitution, it doesn't. Congress has the power. We should be focusing on on somebody controlling Congress, the purse of Congress. That is the one who has the power. Presidents don't have the power. It's like, again, I'm going to quote from a very spoof comedy, Spaceballs, where they're at the end and Mel Brooks plays President Scrooge and starts saying, Sanders, I can't make decisions. I'm a president. That's exactly what a president is. He doesn't make decisions. Congress makes those decisions. So, to put this perspective on that, we're putting too much faith and trust and hope and faith, as Seth has said, on the presidency. We're doomed, because we're creating a dictator monster that we don't want, we don't need. It's not constitutional. So, but I just. In this debate, it was just about me, and I, and what I did, and my golf game, and all that, and I have a handicap 6, and yada, yada, yada. And then I kind of, Seth and I kind of switched back to Bobby Kennedy, that he had his own little debate version, where he didn't, at least Bobby Kennedy, I don't trust him anyway, but at least he talked about the issues. He didn't talk about himself. And so that's what I want to see. I want to see a candidate that talks about the issues at hand, not about him, not about his charisma. I don't trust Bobby Kennedy. I'm not going to give him my vote. I prefer his uncle John F. Kennedy. I think he was a much better candidate and conservative. And like I said, he passed the second largest tax cuts in U.S. history. So I prefer John F. Kennedy over Bobby Kennedy Jr. I don't like his father, never did, or his other uncle. But at least Bobby Kennedy Jr. spoke about the issues. He didn't speak about himself. But one point that I will make, that whether you're Republican, Democrat, constitutionalist, libertarian, fascist, communist, socialist, all of them have one thing in common: is to expand the federal government. And that's not what I want. I don't want to expand the federal government any more than it already is. So that's why I really don't really care for who's running for president. I care about who's controlling the Congress. And honestly, I really want somebody to really rein in on that spending and that taxing by Congress, because that's the real power. It's not the president. It's the Congress. We should be focusing more on congressional elections than presidential elections.
Yeah, and I do wonder, that obviously the politicos and those who follow this stuff are watching this. I do wonder. I did just do a little search on what the ratings were for it, because this is the earliest presidential debate there ever has been for a general election debate. They don't start the debates until September, until after the conventions usually. Apparently 51.3 million people watched this debate. And I looked up past presidential debates. The first Biden-Trump debate in 2020 drew in 73.1 million. So I don't know how big of an impact this debate will have. I think in America, a lot of people understand that they kind of understand that this is a clown show of some sorts, but they don't completely get exactly how deep this clown show is. And I think it's our job, people like us who want want Americans to start standing up for themselves and, making, using their liberty the way they choose and not allowing the government to keep violating our rights. It's up to us to point out exactly why this is a clown show. And you listen to a lot of the talking heads after any presidential debate, and, it really is, a lot of talk about how, they're creating economies and stuff. And that ticks me off because I believe in free markets. The president should have practically no effect on the economy. Of course they do, because we have this big major Leviathan that's controlling everything. We need to stop allowing them to control us. And I don't know that this debate will help people break out of this, out of their chains that the media and the politicians are putting us in. But hopefully it does.
I hope it does. I just, we should not really be spending too much time in these presidential elections or debates. I mean, I'm writing my third book on across state lines and elections, particularly on presidential elections, and I've seen, how much time, both Democratic and Republican parties make the effort to say that we need to control the White House. We need to control, in 1924, in 1876, in 2000. And, you can go back to whenever. And again, the president has no power. I don't know where the American people or the media pundits are feeding this, that we need to control the White House either by a blue Democrat president or a red Republican president. And it's just sad because, again, this is a two-party system nation, and this is the best that they can offer us to one of them to constitute the federal government. Trump or Biden, two old fogies. So it's sad. It's really sad, and I wish the American people will really get out there and stop being Republican or Democrat. And just be American, just be a no party. Be like George Washington, a no party person. Whatever happened to that? Why can't we just have no parties like George Washington had? He didn't want to belong to any party, neither a Democratic, Republican, or Federalist. And why can't we be like that? So, it's going to continue this freak show. And then right now, the MAGA thinks that Trump won, and the Democrats, at least the Democrats, they know that Biden did a horrible job. But then Seth and I spoke before the show, and there's some conspiracy theories that after the debate, he came out and was a little more coherent and spoke a little bit faster and quicker, but yet again, he's still an old man. So I don't know how fast did he eat his Ensure and his vegetables? I don't know. So, or some special pill. But again, this is the best that they can do. So this is pretty sad, and I really see no hope to it. Even the GOP convention is coming up in July, and I think Democrat convention is coming up in August. I don't know how I'm going to watch those conventions. I think it's going to be another puppet show. And if Trump gets nominated, which most likely he will get nominated, and Biden will get nominated, we'll see. We'll see if the Democrats will request an open convention and have people come in. I don't think they'll do, but we'll see. But because people like Gavin Newsom are sticking with Biden. But it's just going to be the continuation of a freak show, as it was in 2020, as it was in 2016, and I would say even with Reagan was a bit of a freak show. So my last input on this is, just don't vote for president. Focus on your local elections. Focus on your state elections, on congressional elections. That's where the real power is, not the president. That's the whole point of, we got rid of an elected king or an appointed king from England, and we really got away with it. So, my conclusion is, don't give it two thoughts on it. Really don't, because it's not gonna help you in any way. Trump is not gonna give you your more of your stimulus check, because he's not gonna be a knight in shining armor. So just get that thing out of your head and just focus on your local and state elections. That's my last thought. How about you, Seth?
Yeah, I'd say, basically the same. There was some other news that came out this week that didn't get any coverage, certainly not from the Republican press. But the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget conducted a study and found that Trump borrowed $8.4 trillion during his 4 years, compared to $4.3 trillion by Biden. And then, and that's including COVID spending. You take away COVID spending by both, and Trump accrued $4.8 trillion in debt compared to $2.2 trillion by Biden. So this is the point, is they're both big spenders. They're both going to target us, and our freedoms are going to target our wallets. Neither one of them care about us. They don't care about our freedoms. They don't care about the Constitution. We need to start caring about the Constitution and saying no to them when they violate the Constitution. And the only way to get people to understand this is to expose just how ridiculous this debate was, and to expose how both parties are against us. If you're a Democrat, you think Trump's against you and the Republicans are against you, but you don't see it in the Democrats. If you're on the right, you think Joe Biden's destroying America and the Democrats are destroying America, but you don't see how the Republicans and Donald Trump are. We need to understand how both parties work in tandem to destroy our liberties, to destroy our rights, to destroy our economy. And we need to say no to them. We need to start building our own futures locally and ignore these sideshows.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Seth. We need to, both parties are working together. Listen, go back to 1993 when both parties worked together to oust third-party and independent candidates. Bobby Kennedy Jr., as much as I don't like him, but, he has every right to be on the same stage as Joe Biden and Trump. And because of that deal in 1993 of both of those two parties, we can't have a multi-party system here in this country. We only have two lame-ass two-party system that are now showing us that their best candidates are two old white guys that are just senile and dumb, a narcissist. And quite frankly, it sickens me. So that's why I'm not. When I see Trump and Biden, I don't see any difference whatsoever. I really don't. I know that they've still got that tribalism politics, and like you said, Republicans see as Democrats as the bad, and Democrats see as Republicans the bad, but they don't really see that both of them are bad for the country. Both of them are bad. Both of them don't do anything. One last thing, Seth. We've been in a recession since 2001. We haven't gone out of that recession. We've had drops and pickups, but we haven't had a surplus in many years. We haven't. The last surplus was in 1996. That was the last surplus this country ever had. And after that, we spend it all on two stupid wars and on earmark spending. Thank you, George W. Bush. But, when Trump says that I built I had a great economy. No, you didn't. You had a recession economy. And Biden's saying the same thing. And then these numbers come out that, has 200,000 jobs has been added to the economy. Yeah, those are government jobs. Those aren't private industry jobs. Those are government jobs. Those are the census. Those are DHS. Those are HHS with Obamacare. Those haven't done anything. So, when they say that I've done this, no, you haven't. You haven't done squat. They haven't done squat. We're in a recession since 2001, and we haven't gone out of it because the federal government will not allow it. And quite frankly, the deep state, which both parties have not allowed it. So my main thing is, don't even concern yourself with the election. Don't even watch the convention. Don't even watch more debates because it's just going to depress you. It's just don't vote. Let this election be. And I know people have said it's going to be a low voter turnout. Yes, let's make it a low voter turnout so people can finally get up and say that's enough. So let's make this a low voter turnout election, a very, very low voter turnout. So again, that's my last 2 cents. So, Seth, do you agree with me? Low voter turnout to the extreme?
Yeah, I think that would be great. I would actually think what would be great is if there were high voter turnout for local candidates. Yeah. But low voter turnout for the presidential campaign. If there were more voters who voted in local elections, but record low votes for president and Congress, I think that would be a message.
I think that has happened a lot, and now we're seeing more high voter turnout and voters for local and state elections than for federal elections and congressional and presidential. So, I mean, we've seen it before. In 2008, the majority of black Americans in California voted for Proposition 8, a ban on same-sex marriage, but yet they turned out to vote for Barack Obama. But they actually did something for local elections, so that's good. So let's keep it up. As Seth said, let's have a high voter turnout for local elections and a low voter turnout for presidential and congressional elections.
Yeah.
And with that, have yourself a nice week ahead. Great, happy 4th of July for all of us. Keep America, as liberty as possible. And, oh, that's right. We forgot to mention 4th of July, Seth. Let's remember our rights and liberties all around, and don't let the federal government take it away from us. Right, Seth?
Yeah.
All right. Well, have yourself a great night, and we'll see each other this Sunday.
Good night.